Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me at the MarketSite studio, we have Chad Anderson. He's a SpaceX investor and managing partner at Space Capital to discuss the space economy and what could be the game changers for the industry. Chad, it's great to have you with us. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Thank you.
All right, the space economy is a hot topic for us at Nasdaq, so let's go through some of the verticals here. You think robots are going to be the next thing to go to the moon?
Well, it's a big part of what happened in 2022. The first half of the year was really about the Russian invasion of Ukraine and a lot of the showcasing of commercial capabilities there, whether it be satellite communications, connecting the Ukrainians, or Earth observation companies showing us what was actually happening on the ground. But the second half of the year was really all about the moon. And this is underpinned by NASA's Artemis mission to take humans back to the surface and build an outpost. And we had a successful demonstration at the end of last year, which demonstrated all of the technologies. And they're going to aim to send humans in 2024. But in the meantime, we're going to send a lot of robots there. And NASA's spending billions of dollars to send robotic precursor missions to scout out the terrain, look for the best place to set up camp, and lay some of the initial infrastructure, including some of our portfolio companies.
No, you think the Starship test flight is going to be a game changer for the industry overall?
No doubt. I think all eyes are on Starship to reach orbit in Q1. We've been watching this space very closely and with a lot of anticipation, and it looks like they're on schedule to make an orbital test flight by the end of this quarter. And the reason why this is so important is because this is a game-changing next-generation launch vehicle. It's the largest vehicle ever built, and it will be fully and rapidly reusable, which means that we're moving from an era where launch was very expensive and we were throwing away the vehicle every time, to now having a large vehicle that can take a lot of payload and mass to orbit for very, very low cost. We're moving from space launch to commercial jetliners, if you will.
It seems as if 2023 there are a lot of launches coming to market. It feels more robust than it has, let's say, in the past couple of years. You think new rockets are going to come online as well?
Yeah, and last year was a record year for launches globally. In the US, I think there was 76. SpaceX made up 61 of those, and the US was the leader globally. So there was a lot of space launches. A lot of that is driven by SpaceX. And they've really come to dominate this market. With their Falcon 9 rocket, it's really the most cost-effective, the safest and the most reliable vehicle out there, and it's really dominated the market. So it would be great to see some more competition come into the market and give, enterprises and governments some choice. We do expect to see several new launch vehicles come online this year, although we're just in the first couple of weeks of January. We've already had two launch failures of these new vehicles. So it's not as easy to get to orbit. The SpaceX makes it look easy, but it's not easy.
So for folks that are new to the space economy, what's the point of these new rockets coming online? What will enable the either space economy to do? What does it mean for consumers, for enterprise? What's the point of all these rockets launching, basically?
Well, there's more demand for sensors in orbit. So since satellites, they enable our global economy, and they are the invisible backbone behind most of the world's largest industries. GPS powers our financial markets. It's not just positioning, it's also the timing element is very important. Geospatial intelligence provides a really valuable data set about what's happening on the surface of our planet. And so there's massive opportunity here for companies to launch sensors and bring new data sets to market. And they're all looking for rides to orbit. And so SpaceX has done a good job of enabling this market and really kickstarting this entrepreneurial space age. But we're in a position now where we could use some more.
Yeah, what's so interesting, the things that we take for granted that are so important to what we do for our day-to-day lives, you don't think about all the technology that goes into it. So China's new space station is going to be complete. Do you think we'll see collaboration with Western researchers and scientists?
Yeah, I think the latest for them is that they're calling it complete with some expansion that they want to do. And so, they have an orbital station. They've had a permanent crew up there for throughout 2022, and they have a rotating crew. So it's very similar to the International Space Station. They have reached out and are looking for other folks to come and use their station as well. We'll have to see how that plays out. There is a lot of interest. Again, a limited resource in orbit that the demand, supply is constrained and demand is growing. So it's great to have more options, although it's a little difficult for the Western world and China to collaborate on these types of things.
Let's talk about Boeing, of course, a legacy aeronautics company, right? You don't necessarily think of these older companies with the newer space age technology, but they are in fact poised to take its first crewed flight in April 2023 this year. What are your expectations for that?
We'll see. They've been poised for a number of years now. So the Commercial Orbital Transportation Services was a program that was developed by NASA to move away from fixed price contracts, meaning they go out to the defense contractors that they know, Boeing and others, and say, we need this capability, would you build it for us? And we're going to pay you whatever it costs you to build that and, plus some margin. Moved away from that, which was really incentivizing a lot of excess and waste, to fixed price contracts, which meant that they would give them X amount of dollars if you can deliver this, and you can put in bids to say, yes, I can meet that and make a business out of it. So that's what gave rise to these commercial launch services in the first place, which was first for cargo and then was extended to crew. SpaceX has really benefited from this, and SpaceX was the flyer. They were the low-cost option. Boeing was supposed to be the safe bet here for the government, and so they NASA gave Boeing $4 billion. They gave SpaceX a couple of $1 billion, and now we've got SpaceX has successfully demonstrated their technology, have flown to orbit, have delivered several crews of NASA astronauts and private crews of astronauts to the space station. Meanwhile, Boeing is way behind schedule, years behind. And so I think, if they made it this year, it would be a pleasant surprise.
Which brings me to my next point, because when you think about younger, more nimble companies, they're able to bring that technology to market much quicker, right? So, and of course, they're not immune to what we're seeing in the macro environment. Rising rates, market volatility certainly makes cost of capital more expensive. What do you think the implications are going to be in terms of business models within the space economy?
Well, I think that 2023 is going to be a tough year for startups. I think that that where we are today with the rising interest rates and the way that the sort of economy has tapped the brakes is caused some pain, obviously, but is going to be overwhelmingly positive for technology and for space technologies as well. And the reason for that is because space technologies, again, are the invisible backbone. They power the world's largest industries today, and they're playing an increasingly important role in the global economy. So we mentioned at the beginning about Ukraine and how satellite communications are providing critical connectivity, how Earth imaging companies are providing critical information and insights to enterprises and governments who are willing to pay. The National Reconnaissance Office, one of the big 5 U.S. intelligence agencies, made their largest ever purchase for satellite imagery in Q2. So we're seeing record revenues for some of these companies, particularly in space, these space companies that are providing essential insights and information. And so, and not to mention that the defense space spending is one of the fastest growing areas in the DoD budget. The Space Force now has a budget of $26 billion in 2023, which is $1.7 billion more than they requested, and is more than NASA's annual budget now. So this is a key area, right? Governments are willing to pay, enterprises are willing to pay, and we're seeing record revenues. So it's an interesting time.
So for the companies that are ingrained in, the critical insights, as you had mentioned, data, those services, those are the ones that are going to be successful, or at least come out of the heightened market volatility as compared to outliers, I guess.
We certainly think so. I mean, on the infrastructure side, okay, so the space economy is very broad, right? You've got the rockets and the satellite hardware, but the space economy is much larger than that. That's very CapEx heavy, and that's those types of companies, especially if they have long lead times to bringing in real revenue, they're going to struggle in this market. Tighter capital markets are putting a premium on business fundamentals and revenue. So it's really the data and the insights that are leveraging this infrastructure that are going to extract a lot of the value and are going to have an easier time to fundraise.
Give us a handful of companies that fit within those spaces that they might not be everyday household names.
Absolutely. So actually, recently you had Sid Jot Arbol on your show, and Sid is a portfolio company. Arbol is a parametric insurance play. They are leveraging a lot of cutting edge technology, but really they're a parametric insurance platform that does a lot of the validation using satellite connectivity. We were just talking about CES and some of the connected cars that are there. A lot of that is that connectivity in vehicles is going to be underpinned by satellite connectivity, right? I mean, when cars go outside of 4G and 5G coverage, they still need to be connected. We have a company in our portfolio called K4 Mobility that is the old team that brought us GoGo in-flight Wi-Fi. This is their next venture, and they are seamlessly orchestrating network management, making it so that you can connect to 4G, 5G, and then satellite seamlessly, depending on where the coverage is, and optimizing for whatever you're optimizing for, highest bandwidth, lowest latency, lowest cost, what have you. So it's really interesting from a shipping perspective. When you're at the dock, right, you can connect to 4G, 5G. When you move out offshore, you can connect to satellite seamlessly. But it goes for all types of emergency services or car connectivity, and you can think of all kinds of.
Yep, the logistics, supply chain. I mean, it runs a whole gamut. All right, Chad, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.